Arrogance, deceit, and a dramatic downfall, this was the story that had everyone talking in the packed courtroom that day. The murmur of whispers filled the air as people squeezed into every available seat, their eyes fixed on the defendant's table. Rumors spread like wildfire, each new detail more scandalous than the last. Then, in walked Ethan Grayson. Tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a meticulously tailored charcoal suit, he strode into the room with the air of a man used to command and adoration. His slicked-back hair shimmered under the harsh fluorescent lights, and he offered a dismissive smirk to the gathering crowd, as if they were there to applaud his presence rather than to judge him. For weeks, Ethan Grayson's name had dominated headlines. Once celebrated as a brilliant entrepreneur, he had now become the accused, a man allegedly responsible for defrauding countless families of their life savings. His company, once touted as a symbol of financial brilliance, had crumbled under the weight of deception, leaving behind a trail of ruined dreams. Yet, as he casually flipped through a legal pad at his table, his arrogance seemed to defy the gravity of his crimes. The courtroom's atmosphere shifted the moment Judge Monica Lee entered. Draped in her customary black robe and exuding a quiet authority, she walked directly to the bench. Without raising her voice, her mere presence commanded respect. As the bailiff called for everyone to rise, all eyes turned to her, not to Ethan, but to the embodiment of justice herself. Judge Lee's reputation for fairness and an unyielding commitment to the truth preceded her. Once seated, she fixed a piercing gaze on Ethan. For a moment, the room's noisy chatter subsided, and an almost tangible tension took hold. Ethan's lawyer leaned in with hurried whispers, but the defendant waved him off with a flick of his wrist, as if dismissing an inconvenient interruption. The trial unfolded with a series of testimonies that painted a grim portrait of Ethan Grayson's fraudulent empire. Families shared their heartbreak and financial ruin. Angela Martinez, a widowed mother of 3, tearfully recounted how investing with Grayson had cost her the family home. "I pleaded with them. Please, don't take everything," she said, her voice quivering with sorrow. "But they didn't care. My children had to sleep in the car for weeks." Her words hung heavy in the air, resonating with every person who had ever faced injustice. Beside her, Peter Vaughn, a retired firefighter who had dedicated 35 years of his life to serving others, detailed how his hopes for a peaceful retirement were shattered by Grayson's deceit. "I risked everything on his promises," he said, voice laden with regret and anger. Each testimony added another layer of evidence against the once revered businessman, and the courtroom's mood grew increasingly somber. Yet, throughout the proceedings, Ethan Grayson remained unfazed. He continued to scroll on his phone and even smirked at moments of earnest testimony, as though the heart-wrenching accounts were mere background noise to his carefully crafted narrative. His dismissive attitude only fueled the anger of those who had suffered at his hands. As the prosecution presented a trove of damning emails, the courtroom fell into a heavy silence. One particular email, in which Ethan explicitly instructed his team to make the numbers look good at the expense of unsuspecting investors, was read aloud. The words seemed to hang in the air like poison. Angela's eyes welled with tears, and Peter clenched his fists in disbelief. When Ethan finally leaned into the microphone with a tone dripping with condescension, stating, "Yes, I recognize it, but it's just business talk," a murmur of outrage swept through the gallery. Judge Lee's patience, already tested by Ethan's constant interruptions and sardonic asides, finally reached its limit. "Mr. Grayson," she said, voice firm and unwavering, "this is not a boardroom negotiation. I expect you to show respect in this courtroom." With that, the atmosphere grew even heavier, a collective reminder that no one, no matter how powerful, was above the law. The trial's turning point came on the day Angela Martinez took the stand once again. Clutching a faded photograph of her family, she recounted the moment when hope had turned to despair. "I trusted him with everything," she said, her voice breaking as she looked directly at Ethan. "And he ruined our future." The raw emotion in her words struck a chord with everyone present. Even as Ethan remained stoic, the gravity of the moment was undeniable. Despite the relentless barrage of testimonies and irrefutable evidence, Ethan clung to his arrogance. His legal team had attempted every delay tactic, arguing that the media had spun the narrative unfairly. Yet, every piece of evidence, from falsified bank records to testimonies from former employees, undercut his claims. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the final day of the trial arrived, the atmosphere electric with the promise of justice. When Judge Lee finally delivered her verdict, the room held its collective breath. "Mr. Ethan Grayson, you have been found guilty on all counts of fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice," she declared, her voice measured and resolute. The words hit like a sledgehammer. "Your actions have not only destroyed financial lives, but have also shattered the hopes of countless families. You have shown a complete lack of remorse and treated these proceedings as if they were beneath you." For a fleeting moment, Ethan's confident demeanor faltered. His smug expression dissolved into one of disbelief. Then, as if to underline the finality of his downfall, Judge Lee pronounced, "I hereby sentence you to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Additionally, I order the immediate liquidation of your assets to provide restitution to those you have wronged." A stunned silence enveloped the courtroom. Gasps and murmurs of approval swept through the gallery as Angela Martinez and Peter Vaughn exchanged glances of relief and vindication. Ethan's face turned a deep shade of red, his arrogance now a distant memory amid the harsh reality of his sentence. As Ethan was led away by the bailiffs, he tried to protest, his voice growing fainter with every step. "This is a mistake. I'll appeal," he shouted. But his words were lost in the resounding applause that filled the room. The verdict was more than just a punishment. It was a powerful statement that no one, no matter how wealthy or influential, could escape accountability. Outside the courthouse, reporters and onlookers buzzed with the news of the verdict. Angela's eyes shone with a mix of sorrow and hope, while Peter's weary smile spoke of hard-won justice. For many, the sentence was a beacon of hope, a promise that even in a world rife with arrogance and fraud, the scales of justice would eventually balance. Judge Lee, back in her chambers, reflected on the trial with a quiet determination. Her role was not about personal triumph, but about ensuring that every individual, regardless of status, was held accountable for their actions. The story of Ethan Grayson's downfall would serve as a reminder to all that justice, though sometimes slow, was inevitable. In the end, the downfall of a man who had once believed his wealth could shield him from consequences had become a rallying cry for accountability, a lesson that no amount of arrogance or deceit could subvert the truth.